The opponent had given in to his eyes, to his willpower, and this made Musashi happy. "Akemi," he said, putting his hand on her shoulder. Still sobbing with her face to the railing, she did not reply. "Who's that man over there? He's somebody who knows you, isn't he? I mean, the young man who looks like a student warrior. Just who is he?" Akemi was silent. She had not seen Kojiro until now, and the sight threw her tear-swollen face into confusion. You mean that tall man over there?" "Yes, who is he?" "Oh, I don't know him very well, but you do know him, don't you?" Yes, carrying that great long sword and dressed to attract attention. He must think he's quite a swordsman. How do you happen to know him?" "A few days ago," Akemi said quickly, "I was bitten by a dog, and the bleeding wouldn't stop, so I went to a doctor in the place where he happened to be staying. He has been looking after me the past few days." "In other words, you are living in the same house with him?" "Yes, well, I'm living there, but it doesn't mean anything. There's nothing between us." She spoke with more force now. "In that case, I suppose you don't know much about him." "Do you know his name?" "His name is Sasaki Kojiro. He's also called Ganru." Ganru. He had heard that name before. Though not exceptionally famous, it was known among the warriors in a number of provinces. He was younger than Musashi had imagined him to be. He took another look at him. An odd thing happened then. A pair of dimples appeared in Kojiro's cheeks. Musashi smiled back, yet this silent communication was not full of peaceful light and friendship, like the smile exchanged between the Buddha and his disciple Ananda as they rubbed flowers between their fingers. In Kojiro's smile were both a challenging jeer and an element of irony. Musashi's smile not only accepted Kojiro's challenge, but conveyed a fierce will to fight. Caught between these two strong-willed men, Akemi was about to start pouring out her feelings again, but before it came to that, Musashi said, "Now, Akemi, I think it would be best for you to go back with that man to your lodgings. I will come to see you soon. Don't worry." "You will really come?" "Why, yes, of course. The name of the inn is the Suzuya in front of the Rokujo Avenue Monastery." "I see." The casual manner of his reply was not enough for Akemi. She grabbed his hand from the railing and squeezed it passionately in the shadow of her sleeve. "You will really come, won't you? Promise?" Musashi's reply was drowned by a burst of belly-splitting laughter. "Ha ha 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 ha!" Oh, Kojiro turned his back and walked away as best he could in view of his uncontrollable mirth. Looking on excitedly from one end of the bridge, Jotaro thought nothing could possibly be that funny. He himself was disgusted with the world, and particularly with his wayward teacher and with Otsu. Where could she have got to? He asked again as he started tramping angrily toward town. He had taken only a few steps when he spied Otsu's white face between the wheels of an ox cart standing at the next corner over. "There she is," he shouted, then bumped into the ox nose in his hurry to reach her. Today, for a change, Otsu had applied a little rogue to her lips. Her makeup was somewhat amateurish, but there was a pleasant scent about her, and her kimono was a lovely spring outfit with a white and green pattern embroidered on a deep pink background. Jotaro hugged her from behind, not caring whether he messed her hair or smeared the white powder on her neck. "Why are you hiding here? I've been waiting for hours. Come with me, quick." She made no reply. "Come on, right now," he pleaded, shaking her by the shoulders. Musashi's here too. Look, you can see him from here. I'm mad at him myself, but let's go anyway. If we don't hurry, he will be gone. When he took her wrist and tried to pull her to her feet, he noticed her arm was damp. Otsu, are you crying? Joe, hide behind the wagon like me, please. Why? Never mind why. Well, of all. Jotaro made no attempt to conceal his wrath. That's what I hate about women. They do crazy things. You keep saying you want to see Musashi and go weeping all over the place looking for him. Now that he's right in front of you, you decide to hide. You even want me to hide with you. Isn't that funny, huh? Oh, I can't even laugh. The words stung like a whip. Lifting her swollen red eyes, she said, Please don't talk that way, I beg you. Don't you be mean to me too. Why accuse me of being mean? What have I done? Just be quiet, please, and stoop down here with me. I can't, there's ox manure on the ground. You know, they say if you cry on New Year's Day, even the crows will laugh at you. Oh, I don't care. I'm just... Well then, I'll laugh at you. Laugh like that samurai a few minutes ago. My first laugh of the year. Would that suit you? Yes, laugh hard. I can't, he said, wiping his nose. I bet I know what's wrong. You are jealous because Musashi was talking to that woman. It's not that at all. Yes, it is. I know it is. It made me mad too, but isn't that all the more reason for you to go and talk to him? You don't understand anything, do you? Otsu showed no signs of rising, but he tugged so hard at her wrist that she was forced to. Stop, she cried. That hurts. Don't be so spiteful. You say I don't understand anything, but you don't have the slightest idea how I feel. I know exactly how you feel. You are jealous. That's not the only thing. Quiet, let's go. She emerged from behind the wagon, but not voluntarily. The blind pulled, her feet scraped the ground. Still tugging, Jotaro craned his neck and looked toward the bridge. Look, he said, Akemi's not there anymore. Akemi? Who's Akemi? The girl Musashi was talking to. Oh, Musashi's walking away. If you don't come right now, he will be gone. Jotaro let go of Otsu and started toward the bridge. Wait, cried Otsu, sweeping the bridge with her eyes to make sure Akemi wasn't lurking about somewhere. Assured that her rival was really gone, she appeared immensely relieved and her eyebrows unfurrowed. But back she went behind the ox cart to dry her puffy eyes with her sleeve, smooth her hair, and straighten her kimono. Hurry, Otsu, Jotaro called impatiently. Musashi seems to have gone down to the riverbank. This is no time to primp. Where? Down to the riverbank. I don't know why, but that's where he went. The two of them ran together to the end of the bridge, and Jotaro, with perfunctory apologies, made a way for them through the crowd to the railing. Musashi was standing by the boat where Otsugi was still squirming about, trying to free her bonds. I'm sorry, Granny, he said, but it seems Matahachi's not coming after all. I hope to see him in the near future and trying to drum some courage into him. In the meantime, you yourself should try to find him and take him home to live with you, like a good son. That'd be a far better way to express your gratitude to your ancestors than by trying to cut off my head. He put his hand under the rush mats and with a small knife cut the rope. You talk too much, Musashi. I don't need any advice from you. Just make up your stupid mind what you're going to do. Are you going to kill me or be killed? Bright blue veins stood out all over her face as she struggled out from under the mats. But by the time she stood up, Musashi was crossing the river, jumping like a wagtail across the rocks and shoals. In no time, he reached the opposite side and climbed to the top of the dike. Jotaro caught sight of him and cried, "See, Otsu, there he is." The boy went straight down the dike, and she did the same. To Jotaro's nimble legs, rivers and mountains meant nothing, but Otsu, because of her fine kimono, came to a dead halt at the river's edge. Musashi was now out of sight, but there she stood, screaming his name at the top of her lungs. Otsu came a reply from an unexpected quarter. Osugi was not 100 feet away. When Otsu saw who it was, she uttered a cry, covered her face with her hands for a moment, and ran. The old woman lost no time in giving chase, white hair flying in the wind. "Otsu," she screamed, a voice that might have parted the waters of the Kamo. "Wait, I want to talk to you." An explanation for Otsu's presence was already taking shape in the old woman's suspicious mind. She felt sure Musashi had tied her up because he had a rendezvous with the girl today and had not wanted her to see this. Then she reasoned something Otsu said had annoyed him, and he had abandoned her. That, no doubt, was why she was wailing for him to come back. "That girl is incorrigible," she said, hating Otsu even more than she hated Musashi. In her mind, Otsu was rightfully her daughter-in-law. Never mind whether the nuptials had actually taken place or not. The promise had been made, and if his fiancée had come to hate her son, she must also hate Osugi herself. "Wait!" she shrieked again, opening her mouth almost from ear to ear. The force of the scream startled Jotaro, who was right beside her. He grabbed hold of her and shouted, "What are you trying to do, you old witch? Get out of my way!" cried Osugi, shoving him aside. Jotaro did not know who she was or why Otsu had fled at the sight of her, but he sensed that she meant danger. As the son of Aoki Tenzemon and the sole student of Miyamoto Musashi, he refused to be pushed aside by an old hag's scrawny elbow. "You can't do that to me." He caught up with her and leaped squarely on her back. She quickly shook him off, and taking his neck in the crook of her left arm, dealt him several sharp slaps. "You little devil, this will teach you to bet in." While Jotaro struggled to free himself, Otsu ran on, her mind in turmoil. She was young and, like most young people, full of hope, not in the habit of bemoaning her unhappy lot. She savored the delights of each new day as though they were flowers in a sunny garden. Sorrows and disappointments were facts of life, but they did not get her down for long. Likewise, she could not conceive of pleasure as completely divorced from pain. But today she had been jolted out of her optimism, not once, but twice. Why, she wondered, had she ever come here this morning? Neither tears nor anger could nullify the shock. After thinking fleetingly of suicide, she had condemned all men as wicked liars. She had been, by turns, furious and miserable, hating the world, hating herself, too overcome to find release in tears or to think clearly about anything. Her blood boiled with jealousy, and the insecurity it caused made her scold herself for her many shortcomings, including her lack of poise at the moment. She told herself repeatedly to keep cool and gradually repressed her impulses beneath the veneer of dignity that women were supposed to maintain. The entire time that strange girl was at Musashi's side, Otsu had not been able to move. When Akemi left, however, forbearance was no longer possible, and Otsu felt irresistibly compelled to face Musashi and pour out how she felt. Although she had no idea where to begin, she resolved to open her heart and tell him everything. But life is full of tiny accidents. One small misstep, a minute miscalculation made in the heat of the moment, can, in many instances, alter the shape of things to come for months or years. It was by letting Musashi out of her sight for a second that Otsu exposed herself to Otsugi. On this glorious New Year's morning, Otsu's garden of delights was overrun by snakes. It was a nightmare come true. In many a frenzied dream she had encountered Otsugi's leering face, and here was the stark reality bearing down on her. Completely winded, after running several hundred yards, she halted and looked back. For a moment her breath stopped altogether. Otsugi, about 100 yards away, was hitting Jotaro and swinging him around this way and that. He fought back, kicking the ground, kicking the air, landing an occasional blow on his captor. Otsu saw that it would be only a matter of moments before he succeeded in drawing his wooden sword, and when he did, it was a dead certainty that the old woman would not only unsheath her short sword but show no compunction about using it. At a time like this, Otsugi was not one to show mercy. Jotaro might well be killed. Otsu was in a terrible predicament. Jotaro had to be rescued, but she dared not approach Otsugi. Jotaro did succeed in getting his wooden sword free of his obi, but not in extracting his head from Otsugi's vice-like grip. All his kicking and flailing were working against him, because they increased the old woman's self-confidence. "Brat," she cried snidely, "what are you trying to do? Imitate a frog?" The way her front teeth jetted out made her look hare-lipped, but her expression was one of hideous triumph. Step by scraping step, she pressed on towards Otsu. As she glared at the terrified girl, her natural cunning asserted itself. In a flash, it came to her that she was going about this the wrong way. If the opponent had been Musashi, trickery would not work, but the enemy before her was Otsu, tender, innocent Otsu, who could probably be made to believe anything, provided it was put to her gently and with an air of sincerity. First tie her up with words, thought Otsugi, then roast her for dinner. "Otsu," she called in an earnestly poignant tone, "why are you running away? What makes you flee the minute you lay eyes on me? You did the same thing at the Mikazuki tea house. I can't understand it. You must be imagining things. I haven't the slightest intention of doing you any harm." An expression of doubt crept over Otsu's face, but Jotaro, still captive, asked, "Is that true, Granny? Do you mean it? Why, of course." "Otsu doesn't understand how I really feel. She seems to be afraid of me." "If you mean that, let go of me, and I'll go get her." "Not so fast. If I let you go, how do I know you won't hit me with that sword of yours and run away? Do you think I'm a coward? I would never do anything like that. It looks to me as though we are fighting over nothing. There has been a mistake somewhere." "All right, you go to Otsu and tell her I'm not angry at her anymore. There was a time when I was, but that's all over. Since Uncle Gon died, I've been wandering around all by myself, carrying his ashes at my side, a lonely old lady with no place to go. Explain to her that whatever my feelings about Musashi, I still look upon her as a daughter. I'm not asking her to come back and be Matahachi's bride. I only hope that she will take pity on me and listen to what I have to say. That's enough. Any more and I won't be able to remember it all. All right, just tell her what I said so far." While the boy ran to Otsu and repeated Otsugi's message, the old woman, pretending not to watch, sat down on a rock and gazed toward a shoal where a school of minnows were making patterns in the water. Would Otsu come, or would she not? Otsugi stole a glance, faster than the lightning movements of the tiny fish. Otsu's doubts were not easily dispelled, but eventually Jotaro convinced her there was no danger. Timidly, she began walking toward Otsugi, who, reveling in her victory, smiled broadly. "Otsu, my dear girl," she said in a motherly tone. "Granny," replied Otsu, bowing to the ground at the old woman's feet. "Forgive me, please forgive me. I don't know what to say." "There's no need for you to say anything. It's all Matahachi's fault. Apparently he still resents your change of heart, and at one time I'm afraid I thought ill of you too. And that's all water under the bridge. Then you will pardon me for all the way I acted?" "Well now," said Otsugi, introducing a note of uncertainty, but at the same time squatting down beside Otsu. Otsu picked at the sand with her fingers, scratching a small hole in the cold surface. Tepid water bubbled to the surface. "As Matahachi's mother, I suppose I can say that you've been forgiven. But then there's Matahachi to consider. Won't you see him and talk to him again? Since he ran off with another woman of his own free will, I don't think he will ask you to come back to him. In fact, I wouldn't permit him to do anything so selfish." "But yes, well, won't you at least agree to seeing him? Then, with the two of you there side by side, I'll tell him exactly what's what. That way, I'll be able to fulfill my duty as a mother. I feel I have done everything I could." "I see," replied Otsu. From the sand beside her, a baby crab crawled out and scurried behind a rock. Jotaro latched onto it, went behind Otsugi and dropped it on the top of her head. Otsu said, "But I can't help feeling that after all this time, it would be better for me not to see Matahachi." "I'll be right there with you. Wouldn't you feel better if you saw him and made a clean break of it?" "Yes, but—" "Then do it. I say this for the sake of your own future. If I agree, how are we to find Matahachi? Do you know where he is? I can find him very quickly. Very quickly. You see, I saw him quite recently in Osaka. He got into one of his willful moods and went off and left me in Sumiyoshi. But when he does things like that, he always regrets them later. It won't be long before he shows up in Kyoto looking for me." Despite Otsu's uncomfortable feeling that Otsugi wasn't telling the truth, she was swayed by the old woman's faith in her worthless son. What led to her final surrender, however, was the conviction that the course proposed by Otsugi was right and proper. "How would it be," she asked, "if I went and helped you look for Matahachi?" "Oh, would you?" cried Otsugi, taking the girl's hand in her own. Yes, I think I should. All right, come with me now to my inn." "Ouch, what's this?" Standing up, she put her hand to the back of her collar and caught the crab. With a shiver, she exclaimed, "Now how did that get there?" She held out her hand and shook it loose from her fingers. Jotaro, who was behind her, suppressed a snicker. But Otsugi was not fooled. With flashing eyes, she turned and glared at him. "Some of your mischief, I suppose." "Not me, I didn't do it." He ran up the dike for safety and called, "Otsu, are you going with her to her inn?" Before Otsu could answer for herself, Otsugi said, "Yes, she's coming with me. I'm staying at an inn near the foot of Sanden Hill. I always stay there when I come to Kyoto. We won't be needing you. You go back to wherever you came from." Alright, I'll be at the Karasumaru house. You come too, Otsu, when you finish your business. Otsu felt a twinge of anxiety. Joe, wait! She ran quickly up the dike, reluctant to let him go. Osugi, fearing the girl might change her mind and flee, was quick to follow, but for a few seconds Otsu and Shotaro were alone. I think I ought to go with her, said Otsu, but I'll come to Lord Karasumaru's whenever I have a chance. Explain everything to them and get them to let you stay until I finish what I have to do. Don't worry, I'll wait as long as necessary. Look for Musashi while you're waiting, won't you? There you go again. When you finally find him, you hide, and now you are sorry. Don't say I didn't warn you. It was very foolish of me. Osugi arrived and inserted herself between the two. The trio started walking back to the bridge. Osugi's needle-like glance darted frequently toward Otsu, whom she dared not trust. Although Otsu had not the slightest inkling of the perilous fate that lay before her, she nevertheless had the feeling of being trapped. When they arrived back at the bridge, the sun was high above the willows and the pines, and the streets well filled with the New Year's throng. A sizable group had congregated before the sign posted on the bridge. Musashi, who's that? Do you know any great swordsman by that name? Never heard of him. Must be quite a fighter if he's taking on the Yoshiokas. That should be something to see. Otsu came to a halt and stared. Osugi and Jotaro too stopped and looked, listening to the softly reverberating whisper. Like the ripples caused by minnows in the shoal, the name Musashi spread through the crowd. The Withered Field. The swordsmen from the Yoshioka school assembled in a barren field overlooking the Nagasaka entrance to the timber highroad. Beyond the trees edging the field, the glistening of the snow in the mountains northwest of Kyoto struck the eye like lightning. One of the men suggested making a fire, pointing out that their sheathed swords seemed to act like conduits, transmitting the cold directly to their bodies. It was the very beginning of spring, the 9th day of the new year. A frigid wind blew down from Mount Kinusaga, and even the birds sounded forlorn. Burns nice, doesn't it? Better be careful. Don't want to start a brush fire. The crackling fire warmed their hands and faces, but before long, Ueda Rohei, waving smoke from his eyes, grumbled, "It's too hot." Glaring at a man who was about to throw more leaves on the fire, he said, "That's enough, stop." An hour passed uneventfully. It must be past 6 o'clock already. To a man, without giving it a thought, they lifted their eyes toward the sun. Closer to 7. The young master should be here by now. Oh, he will show up any time. Oh, he will show up any minute. Faces tense, they anxiously watched the road from town. Not a few were swallowing nervously. What could have happened to him? A cow lowed, breaking the silence. The field had once been used as pasture for the emperor's cows, and there were still untended cows in the vicinity. The sun rose higher, bringing with it warmth and the odor of manure and dried grass. Don't you suppose Musashi's already at the field by Randaiji? He may be. Somebody go and take a look. It's only about 600 yards. No one was eager to do this. They lapsed into silence again, their faces smoldering in the shadows cast by the smoke. There's no misunderstanding about the arrangements, is there? No, Ueda got it directly from the young master last night. There couldn't be any mistake. Rohei confirmed this. That's right. I wouldn't be surprised if Musashi's there already. But maybe the young master is deliberately coming late to make Musashi nervous. Let's wait. If we make a false move and give people the impression we are going to the aid of the young master, it will disgrace the school. We can't do anything until he arrives. What's Musashi anyway? Just a ronin. He can't be that good. The students who had seen Musashi in action at the Yoshioka dojo the previous year knew otherwise, but even to them it was unthinkable that Seijuro would lose. The consensus was that though their master was bound to win, accidents do happen. Moreover, since the fight had been publicly announced, there would be a lot of spectators, whose presence they felt would not only add to the prestige of the school, but enhance the personal reputation of their teacher. Despite Seijiro's specific instructions that they were under no circumstances to assist him, 40 of them had gathered here to await his arrival, give him a rousing send-off, and be on hand, just in case. Besides Ueda, 5 of the other 10 swordsmen of the house of Yoshioka were present. It was now past 7, and as the spirit of calm enjoined upon them by Rohei gave way to boredom, they mumbled discontentedly. Spectators on their way to the bout were asking if there had been some mistake. Where's Musashi? Where's the other one, Seijuro? Who are all those samurai? Probably here to second one side or the other. Strange way to have a duel. The seconds are here, the principals aren't. Though the crowd grew bigger and the buzz of voices louder, the onlookers were too prudent to approach the Yoshioka students, who for their part took no notice of the heads peering through the withered miscanthus or looking down from tree branches. Jotaro padded around in the midst of the mob, leaving a trail of little puffs of dust. Carrying his larger-than-life wooden sword and wearing sandals too big for him, he was going from woman to woman, checking one face after another. Not here, he murmured. What could have happened to Otsu? She knows about the fight today. She had to be here, he thought. Musashi might be in danger. What could possibly keep her away? But his search was fruitless. Though he trudged about until he was dead tired. It's so strange, he thought. I haven't seen her since New Year's Day. I wonder if she's sick. That old hag she went away with talked nice, but maybe it was a trick. Maybe she's done something awful to Otsu. This worried him terribly, far more than the outcome of today's bout. He had no misgivings about that. Of the hundreds of people in the crowd, there was hardly one who did not expect Seijuro to win. Only Jotaro was sustained by unshakable faith in Musashi. Before his eyes was a vision of his teacher facing the lances of the Hozoin priests at Hanyar Plain. Finally, he stopped in the middle of the field. There's something else strange, he mused. Why are all these people here? According to the sign, the fight is to take place in the field by the Rendaiji. He seemed to be the only person puzzled by this. Out of the milling crowd came a surly voice. You there, boy, look here. Jotaro recognized the man. He was the one who had been watching Musashi and Akemi whispering on the bridge on New Year's morning. What do you want, mister? Asked Jotaro. Sasaki Kojiro came up to him, but before speaking, slowly eyeing him from head to toe. Didn't I see you on Gojō Avenue recently? Oh, so you remember. You were with a young woman. Yes, that was Otsu. Is that her name? Tell me, does she have some connection with Musashi? I should say so. Is she his cousin? Sister? Well, she likes him. Are they lovers? I don't know. I'm only his pupil. Jotaro nodded his head proudly. So, that's why you are here. Look, the crowd's getting restless. You must know where Musashi is. Has he left his inn? Why ask me? I haven't seen him for a long time. Several men pushed their way through the crowd and approached Kojiro. He turned a hawk-like eye on them. Ah, so there you are, Sasaki. Why, it's Rohei. Where have you been all this time? Rohei demanded, grabbing Kojiro's hand as though taking him prisoner. You haven't been to the dojo for more than 10 days. The young master wanted to get in some practice with you. So what if I stay away? I'm here today. Placing themselves discreetly around Kojiro, Rohei and his comrades led him off to their fire. The whisper went around among those who had seen Kojiro's long sword and his flashy outfit. That's Musashi, for sure. Is that him? It must be. Pretty loud clothing he's got on. He doesn't look weak, though. That's not Musashi, Jotaro cried disdainfully. Musashi is not like that at all. You would never catch him dressed up like a kabuki actor. Presently, even those who could not hear the boy's protest realized their mistake and went back to wondering what was going on. Kojiro was standing with the Yoshioka students, regarding them with obvious contempt. They listened to him in silence, but their faces were sullen. It was a blessing in disguise for the house of Yoshioka that neither Seijuro nor Musashi arrived on time, said Kojiro. What you better do is split up into groups, head Seijuro off and take him home quickly before he gets hurt. This cowardly proposal enraged them, but he went farther. What I'm advising would do Seijuro more good than any assistance he could possibly get from you. Then, rather grandly, heaven sent me here as a messenger for the sake of the house of Yoshioka. I shall give you my prediction. If they fight, Seijuro will lose. I'm sorry to have to say this, but Musashi will certainly defeat him, maybe kill him. Maigi Jirozeman thrust his chest against the younger man's and shouted, That's an insult. His right elbow between his own face and Kojiro's, he was prepared to draw and strike. Kojiro looked down and grinned. I take it you don't like what I said. In that case, I'm sorry, said Kojiro blithely. I won't attempt to be of further assistance. Nobody asked for your help in the first place. That's not quite right. If you had no need of my support, why did you insist that I come from Kamer to your house? Why were you trying so hard to keep me happy? You, Seijuro, all of you. We were simply being polite to a guest. You think a lot of yourself, don't you? Ha ha ha. Let's stop all this before it ends up with my having to fight all of you. But I warn you, if you don't heed my prophecy, you will regret it. I have compared the two men with my own eyes, and I say the chances Seijuro will lose are overwhelming. Musashi was at the Gojō Avenue Bridge on New Year's morning. As soon as I laid eyes on him, I knew there was danger. To me, that sign you put up looks more like an announcement of mourning for the house of Yoshioka. It's very sad, but it seems to be the way of the world that people never realize when they are finished. That's enough. Why come here if your only purpose is to talk like that? Kojiro's tone became snide. It also seems to be typical of people on the way down that they won't accept an act of kindness in the spirit in which it's offered. Go on, think what you like. You won't even have to wait the day out. You will know in an hour or less how wrong you are. Yeah, Jirozeman spat at Kojiro. 40 men moved a step forward, their anger radiating darkly over the field. Kojiro reacted with self-assurance, jumping quickly to one side. He demonstrated by his stance that if they were looking for a fight, he was ready. The goodwill he had professed earlier now seemed a sham. An observer might well have asked if he wasn't using mob psychology to create an opportunity for himself to steal the show from Musashi and Seijuro. A stare of excitement spread through those close enough to see. This was not the fight they had come to watch, but it promised to be a good one. Into the midst of this murder-charged atmosphere ran a young girl. Speeding along behind her like a rolling ball was a small monkey. She rushed in between Kojiro and the Yoshioka swordsman and screamed, "Kojiro, where's Musashi? Isn't he here?" Kojiro turned on her angrily. "What is this?" he demanded. "Akemi," said one of the samurai. "What's she doing here?" "Why did you come?" Kojiro snapped. "Didn't I tell you not to? I'm not your private property. Why can't I be here?" "Shut up and get out of here. Go on back to the Suzuya," shouted Kojiro, pushing her away gently. Akemi, panting heavily, shook her head adamantly. "Don't order me around. I stay with you, but I don't belong to you. She choked and began to sob noisily. "How can you tell me what to do after what you did to me? After tying me up and leaving me on the second floor of the inn? After bullying and torturing me when I said I was worried about Musashi?" Kojiro opened his mouth, ready to speak, but Akemi didn't give him the chance. "One of the neighbors heard me scream and came and untied me. I'm here to see Musashi." "Are you out of your mind? Can't you see the people around you?" "Shut up." "I won't. I don't care who hears. You said Musashi would be killed today. If Seijuro couldn't handle him, you would act as his second and kill Musashi yourself. Maybe I'm crazy, but Musashi is the only man in my heart. I must see him." "Where is he?" Kojiro clicked his tongue, but was speechless before her vitriolic attack. To the Yoshioka man, Akemi seemed too distraught to be believed, but maybe there was some truth in what she said. And if there was, Kojiro had used kindness as a lure, then tortured her for his own pleasure. Embarrassed, Kojiro glared at her with unconcealed hate. Suddenly, their attention was diverted by one of Seijiro's attendants, a youth by the name of Tamihachi. He was running like a wild man, waving his arms and shouting, "Help, it's the young master. He has met Musashi. He's injured." "Oh, it's awful, awful. What are you babbling about?" "The young master, Musashi, where, when?" "Tamihachi, are you telling the truth?" Shrill questions poured from faces suddenly drained of blood. Tamihachi went on screaming inarticulately, neither answering their questions nor pausing to catch his breath. He ran, stumbling back to the timber highroad, half believing, half doubting, not really knowing what to think. Ueda, Jorozaemon, and the others chased after him like wild beasts charging across a burning plain. Running north about 500 yards, they came to a barren field stretching out beyond the trees to the right, quietly basking in the spring sunlight, on the surface serene and undisturbed. Thrushes and shrikes, chirping as though nothing had happened, hastily took to the air as Tamihachi scrambled wildly through the grass. He climbed up a knoll that looked like an ancient burial mound and fell to his knees. Clutching at the earth, he moaned and screamed, "Young master!" The others caught up with him, then stood nailed to the ground, gaping at the sight before their eyes. Seijuro, clad in a kimono with a blue flower design, a leather strap holding back his sleeves, and a white cloth tied around his head, lay with his face buried in the grass. "Young master, we're here. What happened?" There was not a drop of blood on the white headband. nor on his sleeve or the grass around him, but his eyes and forehead were frozen in an expression of excruciating pain. His lips were the color of wild grapes. Is he breathing? Barely. Quick, picking up. One man knelt and took hold of Seijiro's right arm, ready to lift him. Seijiro screamed in agony. Find something to carry him on, anything. 3 or 4 men, shouting confusedly, ran down the road to a farmhouse and came back with a rain shatter. They gently rolled Seijiro onto it, but though he seemed to revive a little, he was still writhing in pain. To keep him quiet, several men removed their obis and tied him to the shatter. With one man at each corner, they lifted him up and began walking in funereal silence. Seijiro kicked violently, almost breaking the shatter. Musashi, is he gone? Ow, it hurts. Right arm, shoulder, the bone. Ow, can't stand it. Cut it off. Can't you hear? Cut the arm off. The horror of his pain caused the men carrying the improvised stretcher to avert their eyes. This was the man they respected as their teacher. It seemed indecent to look at him in this condition. Pausing, they called back to Ueda and Jorozaemon. He's in terrible pain, asking us to cut off his arm. Wouldn't it be easier on him if we did? Don't talk like fools, roared Rohei. Of course it's painful, but he won't die from that. If we cut his arm off and can't stop the bleeding, it will be the end of him. What we've got to do is get him home and see how badly he's injured. If the arm has to come off, we can do it after proper steps have been taken to keep him from bleeding to death. A couple of you go on ahead and bring the doctor to the school. There were still a lot of people about, standing silently behind the pine trees along the road. Annoyed, Rohei scowled blackly and turned to the men behind him. Chase those people away, he ordered. The young master's not a spectacle to be stared at. Most of the samurai, grateful for a chance to walk off their pent-up anger, took off on the run, making vicious gestures at the onlookers. The latter scattered like locusts. Tamihachi, come here, called Rohei angrily, as if blaming the young attendant for what had happened. The youth, who had been walking tearfully beside the stretcher, shrank in terror. What is it? He stammered. Were you with the young master when he left the house? Yes. Where did he make his preparations? Here, after we reached the field. He must have known where we were waiting. Why didn't he go there first? I don't know. Was Musashi already there? He was standing there, standing on the knoll where was he alone? Yes. How did it go? Did you just stand there and watch? The young master looked straight at me and said, he said if by any chance he should lose, I was to pick up his body and take it to the other field. He said you and the others had been there since dawn, but I wasn't under any circumstances to let anyone know anything until the bout was over. He said there were times when a student of the art of war had no choice but to risk defeat, and he didn't want to win by dishonorable, cowardly means. After that, he went forward to meet Musashi. Tamihachi spoke rapidly, relieved to get the story told. Then what? I could see Musashi's face. He seemed to be smiling slightly. The two of them exchanged some sort of greeting. Then there was a scream. It carried from one end of the field to the other. I saw the young master's wooden sword fly into the air, and then only Musashi was standing. He had on an orange headband, but his hair was on end. The road had been clear of the curious. The men carrying the shatter were dejected and subdued, but kept scrupulously in step so as to avoid causing further pain to the injured man. What's that? They halted, and one of the men in front raised his free hand to his neck. Another looked up at the sky. Dead pine needles were flattering down on Seijiro. Perched on a limb above them was Kojiro's monkey, staring vacantly and making obscene gestures. "Ouch!" cried one of the men as a pine cone struck his upturned face. Cursing, he whipped his stiletto from his scabbard and sent it flying with a flash of light at the monkey, but missed the target. At the sound of his master's whistle, the monkey somersaulted and bounced lightly onto his shoulder. Kojiro was standing in the shadows, Akemi at his side. While the Yoshioka man directed resentful eyes at him, Kojiro stared fixedly at the body on the rain shatter. His supercilious smile had dazzled his face, which now bore a look of reverence. He grimaced at Seijuro's agonized moans. While his recent lecture still fresh With his recent lecture still fresh in mind, the samurai could only assume that he had come to have the last laugh. Rohei urged the stretcher-bearers on, saying, "It's only a monkey, not even a human being. Forget it, get moving." "Wait," Kojiro said, then went to Seijuro's side and spoke directly to him. "What happened?" he asked, but did not wait for an answer. "Musashi got the better of you, didn't he?" "Where did he hit you? Right shoulder? Oh, this is bad. The bones shatter. Your arm's like a sack of gravel. You shouldn't be lying on your back being bounced along on the shatter. The blood might go to your brain." Turning to the others, he commanded arrogantly, "Put him down. Go ahead, put him down. What are you waiting for? Do as I say." Seijuro seemed on the verge of death, but Kojiro ordered him to stand up. "You can if you try. The wound isn't all that serious. It's only your right arm. If you try walking, you can do it. You still got the use of your left arm. Forget about yourself. Think of your dead father. You owe him more respect than you are showing now. A lot more. Being carried through the streets of Kyoto, what a sight that would be. Think what it would do to your father's good name." Kojiro stared at him, his eyes white and bloodless. Then with one quick motion, he lifted himself to his feet. His useless right arm looked a foot longer than his left. "Maiki," he called Seijuro. "Yes, sir. Cut it off, huh? Don't just stand there. Cut off my arm. But you gutless idiot. Here, Ueda, cut it off right now." Yes, sir." But before Ueda moved, Kojiro said, "I will do it if you want." "Please," said Seijuro. Kojiro went to his side, grasping Seijuro's hand firmly. He lifted the arm height at the same time unsheathing his small sword. With a quick, startling sound, the arm fell to the ground and blood spurted from the stump. When Seijuro staggered, his students rushed to his support and covered the wound with cloth to stop the blood. "From now on, I'll walk," said Seijuro. "I'll walk home on my own 2 feet. His face waxen, he took 10 steps. Behind him, the blood dripping from the wound oozed blackly into the ground. "Young master, be careful." His disciples clung to him like hoops to a barrel. Their voices filled with solicitude, which turned rapidly to anger. One of them cursed Kojiro, saying, "Why did that conceited ass have to butt in? You have been better off the way you were." But Seijuro, shamed by Kojiro's words, said, "I said I'll walk and walk I will." After a short pause, he proceeded another 20 paces, carried more by his willpower than by his legs. But he could not hold on for long. After 50 or 60 yards, he collapsed. "Quick, we've got to get him to the doctor." They picked him up and made quickly for Shijo Avenue. Seijuro no longer had the strength to object. Kojiro stood for a moment under a tree, watching grimly, then turning to Akemi, he said with a smirk, "Did you see that? I imagine it made you feel good, didn't it?" Her face deadly white, Akemi regarded his sneer with loathing, but he went on. You've done nothing but talk about how you would like to get back at him. Are you satisfied now? Is this enough revenge for your lost virginity? Akemi was too confused to speak. Kojiro seemed at this moment more frightening, more hateful, more evil than Seijiro. Though Seijiro was the cause of her troubles, he was not a wicked man. He was not black-hearted, not a real villain. Kojiro, on the other hand, was genuinely evil. Not the type of sinner most people envision, but a twisted, perverse fiend who, far from rejoicing in the happiness of others, delighted in standing by and watching them suffer. He would never steal or cheat, yet he was more dangerous by far than the ordinary crook. Let's go home, he said, putting the monkey back on his shoulder. Akemi longed to flee, but could not master the courage. It won't do you any good to go on looking for Musashi, mumbled Kojiro, talking to himself as much as to herself. There's no reason for him to linger around here. Akemi asked herself why she did not take this opportunity to make a dash for freedom, but she seemed unable to move, unable to leave this brute. But even as she cursed her own stupidity, she could not prevent herself from going with him. The monkey turned its head and looked at her, chattering derisively. It bared its white teeth in a broad grin. Akemi wanted to scold it, but couldn't. She felt she and the monkey were bound together by the same fate. She recalled how pitiful Seijiro had looked, and despite herself, her heart went out to him. She despised men like Seijiro and Kojiro, and yet she was drawn to them like a moth to a red-hot flame. A man of parts. Musashi left the field thinking, I won, he told himself. I defeated Yoshioka Seijiro, brought down the citadel of the Kyoto style. But he knew his heart was not in it. His eyes were downcast and his feet seemed to sink into the dead leaves. A small bird on the wing, rising, exposing its underside, reminded him of a fish. Looking back, he could see the slender pines on the mound where he had fought Seijiro. I only struck once, he thought. Maybe it didn't kill him. He examined his wooden sword to assure himself there was no blood on it. This morning, on his way to the appointed place, he had been expecting to find Seijiro accompanied by a host of students who might very well resort to some underhanded maneuver. He had squarely faced the possibility that he himself might be killed, and to avoid looking unkempt at the end had carefully brushed his teeth with salt and washed his hair. Seijiro fell far short of Musashi's preconception. He had asked himself if this could really be the son of Yoshioka Kampo. He could not perceive in the urbane and obviously well-bred Seijiro the leading master of the Kyoto style. He was too slender, too subdued, too gentlemanly to be a great swordsman. When the greetings were exchanged, Musashi thought uncomfortably, I should never have gotten into this fight. His regrets were sincere because his aim was always to take on opponents who were better than he. One good look was sufficient. There had been no need to train for a year just to have this bout. Seijiro's eyes betrayed a lack of self-confidence. The necessary fire was absent, not only from his face, but from his whole body. Why did he come here this morning, wondered Musashi, if he has no more faith in himself than this? But Musashi was aware of his opponent's predicament and sympathized. Seijiro was in no position to call the fight off, even if he wanted to. The disciples he had inherited from his father looked up to him as their mentor and guide. He had no choice but to go through the motions. As the two men stood poised for battle, Musashi cast about for an excuse to call the whole thing off, But the opportunity did not present itself. Now that it was all over, Musashi thought, "It's too bad. I wish I hadn't had to do it." And in his heart, he prayed for Seijiro's sake that the wound would heal quickly. But the day's walk was done, and it was not the mark of a mature warrior to stand around moping over the past. As he quickened his pace, the startled face of an elderly woman appeared above a patch of grass. She happened scratching about on the ground, apparently looking for something, and the sound of his footsteps